Hey everybody, we're going to talk about the history of the internet today. Since you're taking a web design class, it's really important to know what the internet is and where it came from. After all, there'd be no need in learning web design without the internet and without the World Wide Web. Throughout this course, you're going to see a lot of slides like this. I'm going to refer you to a lot of videos and resources that you can learn from. You'll normally see when it comes to the videos that I have 1, 2, 3 different questions. I want you to read those questions before you watch the video. And then make sure before you move on that you can answer them. So in addition to watching these lectures, and as I walk you through the presentation, you want to make sure that you go through the presentation yourself, and you're going to watch any videos, and you're going to click on links and review any resources that I refer you to. What is the internet? The internet is often called a network of networks. It's a global system that connects a bunch of computer networks together so that they can all exchange information. So it seems kind of complicated, even the word network. But I want you to think about it in simple terms, stuff you already know. A social network, for example, is a network of people who talk to one another and exchange information. So a computer network's the same thing. It's just that the computers are what are able to talk to one another. So that's what a computer network is, a bunch of computers that can all talk to one another and share information. Now what the internet does is it takes all these separate networks and connects them all together in a global system so that each of these networks can benefit from others' information and share their own. The internet affects every aspect of modern life, from communication to financial transactions. It's made it effortless to find and share information. And in the future, it's only going to get more important. They have something that's called the Internet of Things, where there's devices now that are connected to the internet that require the internet in order to perform a function. Think about self-navigating cars. In the future, cars are going to drive themselves, and they're going to require an internet connection in order to exchange information and to prevent collisions. Before the internet, life was much different. Some people will romanticize what it was like when we didn't have communication and information at our fingertips. Back in the day, face-to-face interactions were very important. Face-to-face interactions were how you gained information and expertise from older people, from people who had more wisdom and experience. Now if you want to find a piece of information, or if you want to learn how to do something, you can easily find it online. But it wasn't always that way. Now, if I want to contact a student or a colleague, they almost always are reachable because they have these great things called smartphones. But back in the day, without today's technologies, people would be unreachable for large swaths of time. And people would just wait until that person came home and they would try to call them. Maybe they were there, maybe they weren't. But in today's day, with the internet and with the mobile networks that are in place, the expectation is if I call you, I'm going to be able to find you and you're going to pick up. Finding information used to be very difficult. Take school, for example. If you wanted to learn a piece of information, if you had a school book report to write, you had to go to a physical library. You had to find books. It was very onerous, very time-consuming. There was microfiche and all kinds of antiquated ways of digging into the past for information. The amount of time it would take to find the information that is now available through a simple Google search is almost hard to comprehend for younger people. Before the internet, like I said, a lot of people have romanticized what it was like before we had all this technology that ultimately doesn't always bring us closer together. Sometimes it pulls us further apart. I want you to watch this video. I think it's kind of interesting perspective on what life was like before the internet. The internet started off like most things do, as an idea. There was a guy called Licklider who envisioned an intergalactic computer network. In the late 60s, we had what was called ARPANET, which is the precursor to the internet. It was a system that ultimately led to today's internet, and it connected 4 universities in the western United States. The first transmission between this packet switching network happened between UCLA and Stanford Research Institute. The internet quickly evolved from ARPANET, but there were some things that needed to be created before we could have this global system. One of the first things that happened was many very influential and important people worked on the protocols, which are the rules that govern how the internet works, and the different technologies that would allow this to be scaled globally. So probably the most important one is called TCP/IP, which basically talks about how requests and responses from computers are broken down into little packets and routed throughout the entire internet. In the 1980s, people realized they could use the internet for cool things like email and telnet, and these needed to have protocols, rules that were standardized. And then in the 1990s, we finally had what was called the World Wide Web, which is just another use of this interconnected system of networks. Hypertext, which you guys are going to be learning about, HTML was invented, and browsers like the Chrome, Firefox, and Internet Explorer that you use every day were invented. Take a moment to click on this resource that talks about the internet timeline. I want you guys to have a perspective on how things came to be what they are today.